Welcome to the session Cutting Cancer Down to Size. On our panel, we have AP Maheshwari, Priya Dutt, Manisha Koirala will be joining us shortly, Bhavna Sironi, and the moderator is Harmala Gupta. Please enjoy the session.
Hello, good evening everyone, lovely to see you all here. And I just put off my cell phone. I hope most of you have your, if not all, have your cell phones off, please. Thank you. This is a session that all of us have been looking forward to, simply because we are seeing so much cancer in our lives these days, and we know that there is a need for more information about cancer. There's a need to share experiences about how to cope with it, both as people who may be affected directly or as caregivers. And we're very fortunate that we have a wonderful panel here who are going to shed light on different aspects of cancer. They've already been introduced to you, and we are waiting, as they said, for Manisha Koirala, who will join us shortly. I'm afraid she's caught in the Delhi traffic, as generally happens. But the sort of the instigation for the session, I would say, is a wonderful book written by Dr. Maheshwari, who's to my right. He's not a medical doctor, but a PhD. But it's called Into the Oblivion, and it's a narration of his mother's journey. She was diagnosed with cancer and subsequently passed away. But both he and his sister have co-authored this book, and they've talked about what they went through. And I think many of the themes they raise are very relevant, and I hope to put them to the panelists today. Maybe I should start with you, Dr. Maheshwari. I'm intrigued by the fact that you have written this book like a novel, really. You haven't used your mother's real name or really used your real name either. It's not so much a biography. Was there any reason why you did that?
In fact, to come to that, I'll have to just make a brief depiction of how and why we have written this book. In fact, my mother contracted cancer, and the most important journey which we ever had in life as caretaker, looking after a cancer patient. And we realized that awareness about so many things itself is a major victory. And what we learned over a period of time, that we have, had we known, I think as caretaker we would have done a better service to the patient. In fact, I'm in police service, so everyone was asking me what is Cancer Connect of a talk. Before I come to it, a small incident or anecdote which actually happened with me. When we were getting our mother treated, one of the doctors told me, Mr. Maheshwari, you are in police. I said, yes. Well, okay. If certain dacoits enter a village and they just mix up with the civic population and you're not able to identify them, then do you just line them up and fire at everybody under the hope that a dacoit will also be killed? Mega, no, we will never do that. Please come, please come. He said, we will never do that. And there it starts, it hits. Okay, the chemotherapy which we are doing, and the many people raise the doubt then why we are doing the chemotherapy where the good cells are also, damaged. Now with this all things started. And as a caretaker then we realized that it is caretaker who protects the interest of the cancer patient. And it's a very important dimension. And what all we gained, I thought we write it down so that we empower the other people. Because when we came across many people, they came to us and whatever we had gained. And if you permit, then I may take a few minutes.
No, can we just move on a bit? I'll get back to you. Yeah. Thank you very much for that. Manisha has joined us. And Manisha, I was just saying, I'm sure you were caught up in the traffic, right? Yes. Yeah, well, lovely to have you here. I meant to ask you, even in this book that is providing the backdrop for this discussion. Dr. Maheshwari's mother, was aware of her cancer only accidentally. She was having a massage and someone said, "Oh, well, there's a lump in your breast," and so I think that happens to many of us. Don't you think there's a need perhaps for greater awareness, for more regular checkups? What was your experience?
Definitely. First of all, let me apologize for coming late to it was a bad traffic, and for me also it was accidental, because I don't think we're trained or it's to do regular checkups. Normally we can consult a doctor or go to hospitals when we are fallen sick or something has gone wrong. We don't have it in our daily thing to regularly checkups, go for checks. I think that is a big point that we need to probably engrave in us now.
Quite right. Well, Dr. Bhavna Sirohi, that brings me to you, because as a doctor, you would ideally want someone to come to your clinic with an early cancer so that you can provide treatment and a cure. What do you think is the reason why you are not seeing people early enough? Is it because they're not aware of their family history, the risk factors, that there's not enough emphasis on checkups and prevention?
I think I have worked for a decade almost in the West and a decade now in India as well. And what is lacking is that we will spend a lot of money on other things like going for a party or alcohol or booze or pan masala, the things which are risk factors for cancer. But we will not spend that money for an yearly checkup, which will not cost more than 1,000 rupees. So in the West, what happens is when you turn 50, you get a letter in the post for a mammogram. When you're in your mid-20s, you will get a letter for a pap smear. I was in UK for such a long time, my GP would hound me literally if I didn't turn up for the pap smear.
Right.
So all these things are government driven. So that is not happening in India. So what we have to do is do it ourselves and be aware about it, increase awareness about cancer, and also I call something cancer alert. So if you have some symptoms, any of us, if you have something like a cough which is not going away, which you had for 3 weeks, or if you have bleeding from anywhere, you're losing weight for no reason, don't ignore it. Go and see a doctor. Like a painless lump, a lot of women don't come to the clinic because they think it's painless, it's there, they've had it for 2 years, 3 years, and then suddenly they will come with cancer that has spread to the other areas. So I think that is what is lacking, awareness, which is what by having this panel itself is, I'm hoping, is going to increase awareness and help in that.
Thank you. Priya, coming to you, we just heard Dr. Maheshwari talk about the role of the caregiver and how important that is. You, of course, were quite young when your mother was diagnosed, yet you were a very important part of that support team for her. How do you see that developing in India? Do you feel that caregivers get enough support? Because it's often a lonely task, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree 100%, and I think caregivers are the most important. When you look at a cancer patient, I think the families are their greatest support, and I think they are the ones who require the support from the medical fraternity. It could be the doctor, the doctor's assistant, the nurse. I think it's very, very important. And I remember when I was very young and my mother was being treated in the US, the first thing, they sat us down when we were just children. I was 12 years old. And the doctors and the nurses sat us down and explained to us exactly what to expect when we see our mother for the first time. And we were seeing her after a couple of months of treatment. And that kind of prepared us, what to expect and how to react to her and how to address issues with her. So it's very, very important to give that courage and support to the caregivers.
Thank you. Dr. Maheshwari, again, going back to the book, I was struck by the fact that often it was the doctor who was telling you, don't share this information totally with your mother. or, wasn't really breaking the bad news to her, but breaking it to you. So this is a cultural issue in our country, In the West, they are quite clear that it's the patient who needs to know what is happening, and not really the caregivers. What is your feeling on this?
I absolutely agree with you, and it's an important psychobehavioral aspect that you should keep the patient informed. Now, when I said the role of the caretaker is important, now it is called I will call it the family customization, in the sense that first thing which hits a cancer patient is the immunity. The cancer patient is susceptible to so many infections. Her diet pattern changes, everything changes. When you take a look into the psychobehavioral aspect, you have to support the patient. You have to filter your guests who are visiting and try to give a negative feedback about the disease. You have to create the positivity. So we even filtered the guests, visitors who are to come. Number two, we also change our diet pattern according to the patient so that the patient doesn't feel left out. You have to, there's a big issue of hospital infection and the infection at home. When you keep a patient in the hospital susceptible to many infections, so it's better to create a right type of hygiene environment at home. So many trade-offs, so many issues they creep up. So I must say that it is in interest of the patient to keep the patient informed, and if time permitting, I'll go to the other aspects, how we treated her and she accepted the reality, she assimilated, and with acceptance and assimilation she was able to have a wider comfort zone. And one thing, since the doctor's issue was there, and it was discussed just now, in India our experience is that there are different protocols still. Few doctors believe in traditional protocols. There are new researches. People are trying to sell those researches. There are market forces working against. Something has to be done. There's a wide variety of protocols available and new research is being done, and these researches keep changing. So you have a right doctor to advise you is number one. Number two, there's a problem of coordination. When this cancer patient is there, different organs are affected. Now we are told you go and consult the cardiac, or people, you go and consult the people who deal with the bone density, you go and consult the pathologists for various factors which are going out of control. And we came across a situation where different people are advising us different medicines, but they are contradictory, so we need a common doctor who can balance various types.
Well, I think you've raised an important issue, because cancer treatment is a multimodality treatment. So it has to be a team that's looking after you, and there should be good coordination amongst the team. What was your experience, Manisha, when you had your treatment? Did you feel that there was this team behind you, you could talk easily to them, your questions were answered?
Yeah, in fact, by the grace of God, my medical doctor and my oncologist, they both were in tandem with each other, well informed, and the nurses, because I was in Sloan Catering, probably that was, they have years of experience, so I was quite taken care of. Initially, I was really keen to talk to my doctor, and there was no personal response, and there was very short time, but I was insistent on getting some time, because it's when you're a patient, a doctor can reassure you and give you a lot of mental support as well, which is really very essential.
Quite right, thank you. And you need the right information, because there's so much out there, isn't there, Dr. Suroi? And people often are on the net and they're getting information, and there's a deluge and they're confused. But I think Manisha has raised some important points, and the fact that you need compassionate care. In the West now you have communication as part of medical training. You also have nurse practitioners, you have a nurse who's specially trained to act as a via media between the patient and the family. What has been your experience here in India? Do you feel we have something similar growing here as well?
I think there are pockets in India which are doing amazing work. There's no doubt about that. But it has to be done for every single patient, whether that's a below poverty line patient or patient who can afford things. should be done for every patient. My advice is that, caregiver's role is extremely important in filtering information, as you said, but it's also important to have the right information in your hand and also ask your doctor for some trusted websites. Internet gives you a deluge of information. You get a cancer, it will say you will die in 6 months, 3 months. But there are cancers which are completely curable. You can't cure diabetes or hypertension, but early stage cancers are curable. So ask your doctor for those trusted websites to go for. And as far as communication, that's seriously lacking in India. So we used to, when I was a consultant in UK, I was asked to go on a mandatory course for communication skills. It was mandatory for every consultant, breaking bad news, and all these things are taught to you. We don't have that in India. So all these things need to be developed to give better care to our patients.
Well, I think you've raised an important point, the fact that actually being compassionate can be taught. It's not something that you just have and someone else doesn't have, but you can actually be taught that. And that makes so much difference. Was that your experience too, Priya? Because you were fairly young, you were 12 years old when your mother was diagnosed and went through her cancer.
Actually, for me, I learned by watching. Nobody really taught me. I think it made a big difference to me to watch her and understand what she was going through. And being so young, and I know there are so many patients out there who have young children who have to go through this, this whole ordeal with them, and how do the children deal with it? I think children have their own defense mechanism, and they are able, somehow or the other, turn out to be much stronger. And that's what happened to me, where I dealt with my mother's illness in a very different way. I was very proud to be the caretaker for a change. My mother always took care of me, but that was an opportunity for me to take care of her. So I looked at it in a different way. It was maybe my defense mechanism, as I was contributing towards my mom's getting better, and was being able to give her that love and care. So I think children deal with it very differently from how adults do.
Right. Well, I think you raised an amazing point. It's often referred to as the gift of caring. We have people say, oh my God, I've become a burden on my family now. But I think there's a different way of looking at it. You have looked after your family all this time, and you're giving them the gift of now repaying that in some way. So I think that's a very beautiful way of looking at it.
Armila, I have to add on to this.
Please do.
Because I did feel guilty of, putting my family into this kind of a situation, and they all were concerned, and I did feel that, oh my God, because of me, they are suffering. But trust me, the caregivers, my parents, my family, and my friend circle, I think it mattered a lot, because they were continuously giving me positive talk, encouragement, right information. So it really mattered. They made my journey, though I initially was feeling guilty, but it made our family more closer.
Quite right.
So today, whenever we have a little bit of difficulties, we go back to those days and say, oh my God, if we can survive that, this is nothing.
That's marvelous. Thank you for sharing that, because someone who goes through cancer does go through a whole host of emotions. There's denial, there's anger, there's grief, there's blame, and often it comes out on those closest to you. Dr. Maheshwari, I'm sure you experienced all that, and I'd really like to know how you, from being a supporting son, in fact became the guide and philosopher for your mom as she reached the final weeks of her life. How did that transformation occur?
In fact, nothing new. All of us know we have been seeing body as part of only the stomach, concentrate on what we eat and what we consume. But the total segment of energy comes, it's a summation, the alignment of the body, mind and the soul. We do it in meditation, we do it in everything, whatever we want to do, with 100% energy, and the type of synergy and the multiplier effect it has had. Now this is what we tried with our mother. We try to align her body with the mind, giving the positive feedback, and also the spirituality, the soul, the touching the soul, and whatever faith she had. And I tell you how the faith works. Like I come from a border guarding force. Sarhad pe ek sipahi. He thinks that I am the first line of defense. He's that level of madness, the dedication. And he faces the bullet happily. He says there is a meaning in life, and he saves the country. For a moment, if he thinks that my child will be orphaned, he cannot do justice to the job. Similarly, when we were dealing with our mother, we brought her to that level of alignment and see it transform the life altogetherly. We came to the level when she thought that okay, it is the God's wish. She followed Kabir, she followed Meera, the whole madness and what we find in the Meera, the dedication. And she was so happy that I am going to meet the holy being and my time has come. I am at the end of the race and I should not lose this race and I must run. And then she defined, look, death is a only for positive forward leap. Because the whole life you have been praying to your God, I want to come and merge on your feet. This time has come, and she was totally lost into that. And we all supported her, reading Kabir, reading Meera, and she was so happy that very soon I will be going and meeting my beloved. And it was a transition. I say death, she took as a positive forward leap. And she was so happy. And mind it, people call me mad, but I am here and a couple of my friends are also here. When she died, she went left, matured, culminated her life. We did not accept condolences. I said, look, she was so happy that I am going to meet the Supreme Being. Prabhu mujhe aapke charnon mein. She has been praying and the day has come and she is into the final race. She went very happily. And the people who are around can only realize this. And I must say, when the journey of life takes you through very oscillations, all of us have to die. Even that constable on the guard, the constable who goes to protect the country, every Fauji Jawan, he has that madness ki no, I am the first and the last line of defense, I have to protect, this is my honor, and he happily takes a bullet. Similarly, same type of madness. Whatever we do, even if you play a good good game of golf, what you see, you concentrate on the ball, you see the alignment, you hit at the sweetest spot and you got to follow through. You have to overshoot. If you undershoot, you cannot make it. Anything. One who plays for himself, one who plays for the country, for a mission, a superordained goal. So the happy experience which we had was how the superordained goal changes the total psyche. And rather I said, couple of people who don't look after parents, I have written in my book, what an important opportunity they lose because the type of experience you have, whole perspective to the life changes. And I think I would, you have also gone under the same journey, and she has come out as a crusader, as a warrior. I think you would also agree with this, that this journey with the, as if fight with the cancer, changed the whole perspective of life. You may add to it.
Absolutely. I think whoever has been touched by the cancer is a transformed person. Because cancer can happen to one person, but it affects the whole entire family. And my take has been, it has helped me to grow and appreciate life and honor my body and honor my life in much more better way.
Thank you, Manisha. And a lot of people who've been through cancer say what you have. But what would the doctor say?
I think I'll just give you an example. Patients who are very positive and believe in just carrying on with normal life while they're having treatment tend to have lesser side effects. And I think one of us should do a study on that. So I had a patient who did not give up a single day's work while she was on chemotherapy. She had her surgery, took a week off, then had her chemotherapy. So having that positive attitude towards life does help, and there are some studies to show that if your life is less stressful, more spiritual, meditation, yoga, all these things also contribute to less. It's a better.
So you would
risk factor for
advocate
cancer.
them for your patients?
Yes, I would. I would advocate it along with the treatment. You have the right treatment, but along with they should also do. Your health is in your hands, I always say. Diet, exercise, vaccinations, screening.
going for regular checkups, and all these things are in our hands, so we can do them.
And yet, Priya, how hard when you're just 52 years old and you have two young children and you're looking forward to seeing them grow up and having to think that I may never be able to do that. Must have been hard for your mom. What do you think gave her the strength?
I think being very close to the age my mom died, I can completely understand the fears she must have gone through, because I have two little children of my own. And yes, it must be extremely scary. And I think I was, talking to my friends, and I said, before I had children, I had no fear of death at all. Everybody has to die one fine day, and how you die, when you die is, all destiny. But today, I take extra care of myself, because I know if I have to live for my children. I want to see them grow up. I want to see them married, and there are so many kind of things as a parent would go through. And yes, so it must have been an extremely scary situation. And I have seen two very young people in my family go through it. My sister-in-law Richa was 32 when she passed away with a brain tumor. She had a little girl. And as a caregiver and as part of the family, and what Manisha very rightly said, cancer doesn't affect only the patient. Cancer takes over the entire family. And it gets very, very important to be positive and stay positive. And I have seen children. I think children are the greatest survivors. If even the doctor would agree with me that when we see children with blood cancer, survival rate of children is much higher. The reason being that they are so innocent and pure, that they fight cancer in a very different level as what an adult would. So the kind of fears we come with, the child doesn't have those fears. So I think that's the biggest example to see that how you can overcome that with a positive attitude when you see children fighting it.
Right.
Harmanaji, just to take a clue from the head of what Dr. Bhavna has said, she has touched a very important aspect. In fact, all of us have cancer cells, dormant stage or very minor, whatever. Let's be clear about it. And lifestyle management is the one important aspect. If we have managed our life well, close to the nature, there are dietary patterns, even now the medical science is recognizing it, that there are so many things we can do with ourselves, change our dietary patterns, the living style, the way we think, the way we grow. Why it is important? Because a strong wall may shake but not fall. And as I told you that man is not only made of what we eat, man is made of what we think and what are our values. It's something like, if we go into that mode, mera kya, mujhe kya. No, we should be concerned about the things, and we are concerned about ourselves. This is the most important aspect of lifestyle management, and if we do that, the life may break everyone, but those strong at the broken places, they come out with flying colors. So that is type of synergy, the strength, the resistance we can build up over a period of time. No one knows what may hit us at any point of time. So there's a great lesson in what she's saying, that the treatment and the lifestyle management is very important, as the lesson for all of us. Right from, and as she said, and when somebody said there are 6 doctors, and the 6 doctors are water, the diet, the exercise, and add to what the other factors she has said. So if we are careful about what we are eating, the air, what we are breathing, the exercise we are doing, how we think, all those aspects are important.
Well, that's very true, but of course we have no control over the air we breathe, I'm afraid. Right now, we're held captive by it. But despite this, I think there are 2 aspects to it. One is, we don't want to end up blaming ourselves for our cancers. I think to a large extent, cancer is still a disease that we don't fully understand. It's multifactorial. There are various factors that go into it. It's not necessarily your destiny either. Sometimes we start to believe that. But Manisha, did you go through the classic symptoms of why me? Could I have done something to deserve this?
Honestly, why me never happened, but I went through a long period of introspection. And in the sense that because I was in my head somewhere thinking that this is the end. And I say, okay, so this is what my life is. I mean, is that all? I couldn't really comprehend that. So I said, okay, in case I get a second chance, what differently I would do? How differently would I live? These are the questions I started asking, and I decided that minute it was very simple, is to look in my heart, look within, and follow that. And what gives me peace, joy, sense of well-being, I'm gonna stick to that path. So I did all that.
Wonderful. I think that's something each one of us needs to follow. But tell me, Priya, as you mentioned, you've had so many people in the family with cancer. Does that worry you, or has it made you more alert? Are you more aware?
I've definitely become more aware, and I think we need to get over the fear of the word cancer. I think every time you hear cancer, you think it's death. And it's not so anymore. I mean, with early detection, like Bhavna said, that many cancers are curable today. So I think what we need to be aware of is that how we can take care of ourselves, and be alert where if you have any sort of symptom, get a checkup done, and go for your regular checkups. I used to never do that before either. And I think like everybody, I tell my friends, you must go for a checkup. So the first reaction is, nahi, I don't want to go for a checkup. Because once checkup में चले जाते हैं, तो 100% doctor will say there's something wrong with you. So I think that is the attitude which we need to kind of overcome and really do it for ourselves.
So Dr. Suroi, tell us the good news about cancer now. There is a lot of good news, isn't there?
There is, there's a lot of positive news, like you've said, that early detected cancer is curable. That's the main message we want to get through. Also, cancer treatment has become much better. It's becoming more personalized, so the side effects are less. So there are 3 verticals of cancer treatment. Surgery. Surgery is getting better. You don't need to have a mastectomy in majority of patients. You can have a breast conserving surgery. If you have a rectal cancer, you can have a sphincter saving surgery. So surgery has become better. You have robotic surgery. So, we've gone leaps and bounds in surgery. In chemotherapy, we are using targeted therapy. So the side effects of the treatment are very less. We've got better drugs for nausea and vomiting. So same way in radiation, we are able to give very high doses of radiation and also minimize the side effects. So long-term side effects of these are less. So that is the good news. So why not, work towards catching the cancer early and just not having the fear that, I have cancer. I think one should take it in the stride, and that will only come by increasing the awareness that, stage 1 and 2 cancers. Most of my patients I see are in stage 3 and 4. So which are, the cure rates are very low. And that is about, I would say, 60 to 80% of patients all over India come in late stages. Mainly because, we think we are invincible. We don't go for checkups. 2 common cancers in India. I think that the main message that we want to get through is head and neck cancer, cervical cancer. Head and neck cancer, the main reason is tobacco and pan masala. So we have to stop using that. Very, very important. It's in your hands. Then the second one is cervical cancer. It's easily preventable by going for checkups and also having vaccination. So, if you have girls or daughters or your daughter, who are young, between 9 to 23, there are guidelines for it. See your doctor, discuss with them, and please get them vaccinated because, it's easily preventable. It prevents about 80% of cervical cancers.
Well, of course, there's fear about cancer, but there's another fear too. Will I be able to afford the treatment? That's a very big issue in our country, isn't it? Private hospitals, you refer to them as money sappers. Am I right in your book? Yeah. And the fact that most middle class people can't afford those treatments, and the only option you have is really to go to a hospital where there's a great rush of people, where you don't necessarily get the attention that you deserve and need. So how do you see that playing out, Dr. Maheshwari? What do we need to change this?
In fact, the intricacies of healthcare system insofar as cancer is concerned, it's a really serious concern and we have to look into it. And even you go to any institution, if it is high-end treatment, many of us cannot afford. That's what the question I dealt with. And more dangerous is the market forces which are playing in this. I mean, it really disturbed me. There's no accusations to the medical fraternity. But then we definitely found a drug which costed single dose 1.25 lakh, and the marketing manager of that firm is ringing up 10 times a day कि नहीं sir, ये तो बहुत बढ़िया है, इसके single dose से हो जाएगा. So we can understand after all, or maybe that I'm in police, I doubt everybody, maybe. But then the point is that such a large set of people, from where the margins are coming, and why in this? Because you buy the fear of the people. Okay, if I don't do I lose the relative. So there's something called some ethical issues are there, and these needs to be, I think, whosoever are in the authority, whosoever are responsible, even the doctors have to go out of the way in certain respect. Okay, let's find and take those protocols. And I can tell you that even classical protocols, which are the low cost, even they are very effective, provided, as she said, you get a right doctor who rightly advises you, finds a combination, and you can really, keep the cancer at bay. But there are many quick fixes, and if somebody says, okay, do this, miracle, look for the miracle. So those I totally agree. We have still to find a solution because of the cost factor. And maybe that I am wrong. I should be proved wrong. But my experience was, yes, definitely there are market forces, and there's the big margins playing, and that is not what should be done by anybody. There should be general ethics in every profession. Let's be professional. I mean, that's my request to everybody from this dais. And in my experience, at least I did face, maybe I'm proved wrong and I wish I'm proved wrong. But then the question of ethics in medical treatment, as well as those who are connected with the medical healthcare system as a supplier, definitely the issue needs to be addressed.
Dr. Surui, you're one person who has been fighting for the cancer patient with limited resources.
I have, Harmala, when I left India in 98, there was just one cancer center in Delhi. Now cancer centers are mushrooming up everywhere. Like every city has like not one but 15 to 20 cancer centers, because these are great revenue generators. So it's become like a revenue driven practice in certain centers. And there's a downside to it, is there is no regulation. Like I was working in the NHS, I had to publish my results. I had to show what my 30-day mortality is, how many patients have died. A surgeon who has closed margins, he's named and shamed. So you have to audit what you're doing. We don't do that. We don't have a benchmark for ourselves. So how will we improve on if we don't have a benchmark? So there is no regulation that you become a cancer center. If you become a cancer center, you have to do 1, 2, 3. You have to publish your results, your infection rates. We don't have anybody doing that. So it can only come from the government. And if it doesn't come, we will have these cancer centers mushrooming up with no control, with everybody doing, whatever they want to do. And exactly what Dr. Maheshwari is saying. So this is something that has to be regulated very urgently, because cancer is going to take heart as the problem by 2020 as per the WHO statistics. That's why these centers are mushrooming up.
Right, so it's seen as a commercial opportunity, but I think, as you say, there has to be accountability. I think
Transparency.
And transparency, because if we have that, we can do things better. We learn from our mistakes, as we all know. We are human. And a doctor is as human as anyone else and will make mistakes. Perhaps this is why, Manisha, in the West, institutions are often turned to for a second opinion, because people seem to trust their systems better. What was your experience being treated in one of those institutions?
I have no complaints. And in fact, I was diagnosed in Nepal, and then I was rushed to Jaslok Hospital in Mumbai. And when it looked like it was really complicated surgery, that's when we decided to go to Sloan
University. And I want to say that my father is a cancer patient. And when he got diagnosed with cancer in 2006, it was multiple myeloma, 3rd stage bone marrow cancer. And doctor said that you have 60 days left. And then he replied that, dear doctor, please mind your language. I will live 60 healthy years. I want to say that a positive attitude and a strong willpower, you can achieve anything. Even a disease like cancer cannot stop you for doing what you want to do. And my question is simple, that I want to ask that like there are so many private hospitals and the cost, you know the cost. So what else can be done other than the treatment from abroad? And even like he is still suffering from cancer and fifth line treatment, and the two drugs they are not legalized in India, but they are in America. And in America, if you want the treatment, then you need at least 2 crores of Indian rupees. How a common man can afford that? And why India is not doing anything? We all are Indians. Why we are not doing anything? Like why those two drugs which are desperately needed in India, but they are not, and a person who want the treatment, he can't get the treatment.
Dr. Srohi, would you like to take that question?
See, the cancer treatments are very, very expensive, especially the new ones that come along from the West. And I have had patients where treatments cost 16 lakhs a month, which is absolutely none of us can afford it. So when they come, they are very expensive. And that's what I said. We need to do our own research. What Dr. Maheshwari said, we have to do our research which is cost effective. So cost effective means, we don't have to go for something which is very expensive. The biology is different of the cancer in the East and the West. I think that is the way forward. India needs to come up, but if you don't have your baseline, how will you, build upon it for research? So we need to start there. We haven't started. Some centers have started, and let's see, hopefully in the next few years it will happen.
Yes, there's a question there. Have you got? There's a gentleman here. Yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Srohi, the way you're talking of cost effectiveness of this drug, have you ever tried for an Indian medicine system called Ayush, the way Baba Ramdev claims, Ayurveda, Yoga, Unani, all this? Why not to try all these things?
No, we have. In fact, in Tata Hospital, they are doing research with curcumin. And in fact, Dr. Moni Kuriakose is also doing with haldi, with curcumin. They're looking at all those things. And I strongly believe that, we should do our own research, and doing it with Ayush would be a great idea. But we have to do it in a proper way, not recommend them with no evidence. Right now, we don't have the evidence. So once it comes, we will recommend it. And it has to be peer reviewed as well.
May I add to it a bit, kindly? Now the theory is very simple. Two things, I am not a doctor, but as a layman and being associated with this, two things I have learned. That your immunity gets hit. Whatever you can do to boost your immunity, maybe that you are not dealing with the cancer.
Do that,
but
yeah.
if you increase your immunity by whatever way, people have done experiment with asparagus, they have done experiment with wheat grass, even the tulsi has been found. I have no scientific evidence, but yes, there have been live cases who have been successful. Very rare, but yes. So even as the possibility exists, number one. And number two, as I said, that lifestyle management, when we are doing this, I'm not, even in Ayurveda, there are so many herbs in Indian science, the Vedic era, that we have forgotten. Only when the West says something, they said that we are doing this, then we realize, okay, tulsi and turmeric and this are important. But if you go into the Vedic science, even the basic herbs, many of the herbs, they increase the immunity. And if you can do that, then you can endure and delay the process of cancer. That I have definitely found, and even we tried, and it definitely did. What the pain and suffering it comes down, because on the other end, even if you are not killing the cancer, but you are increasing the immunity, so the patient is able to survive for long. That I have been a bit of witness, and I believe, I can't do the scientific data, but that is what I wanted to add.
So we need to generate that.
We have to generate that.
So 30 minutes of exercise decreases the risk of breast cancer and colon cancer coming back by 20 to 30%. We've done the study and shown that. So same way we need to do with tulsi and other things here.
Anyone else want to add?
Yeah.
No?
Yeah, this is
Myself, Praveen. My question is for Dr. A.P. Maheshwari. Why did you name your book Into the Oblivion?
Okay, what does it mean to you? To me, it means nothingness, right? Why did I? Because as I lived with my mother, see, you see a circle, and in circle there is a dot, which is the center of the circle. When your grasp, absorption, assimilation in life increases, even that small center becomes a big circle. And then again you are able to find a center within a center. This endless process goes on as you absorb more and more realities of life. And that is how I define the life as infinite. There is nothingness which we define. And when we came to this, okay, we have to accept the death. When we came to it, yes, the mother has to go. Then how do you prepare the person to go? Let off. The art of living to art of dying. The art of living to art of living. It's a tremendous art. And in fact, in one of the places I was called to give a talk, they said, sir, will you speak on art of living? I said, no, I will speak on art of dying. That time I was working in CRPF. People thought that I'll be talking about how the soldiers are fighting and how they are giving away their life. I said, no. The art of dying is every moment, some cells are dying within me. Even if you see a river, it is not the same, the water has changed. We have died every moment there's a death is coming. If you see scientifically also. Many things are happening and cognitions and the thoughts and everything. How do you mature? Now, this is not the forum that I go in for that, but that precisely answers that when you really assimilate with the life, your power to see beyond within increases. And then you find that many things are just the transition. You accept the reality with a happiness as a challenge, and you think, and finally, because I could see that, I could believe in it, that death is the only positive forward leap a person makes in life, because that's the ultimate you have to reach. And when you win over, I won't go into this, but if anybody interested, I'm available and I'm ready to discuss.
Yeah, you should discuss it later on with Dr. Maheshwari. There's a question here.
Yeah,
Yes.
this is Satish. I've had a couple of people in the family. To Priya, this is a question. Are you also thinking of having a registry of hospitals or doctors on their rate of success or ethical practices? That was one. And the second was that I find that there's dyslexia in the doctors, the oncologists and so on, in referring. And in my case, I had to refer to Dr. Noori, where your mother was, and then to Sloan Catering for alternative, and the doctors washed their hands off here. And they said, it's up to you. I said, at least have a talk, and they refused. So how are you trying to manage this dyslexia, especially as the doctor said that they have to be educated onto this front? So these were the two questions.
We haven't yet gone into the aspect of doctors really, and I think that's something which I haven't ventured into. My focus has been in building the bone marrow registry as well as a platelet donation registry, which are the two very important things for cancer patients. And but your idea of having a registry with references of doctors, I think is a very good idea. And I think there is a registry, or not a registry, a website on information on cancer with a lot of doctors on board that I don't remember the name, but there is someone who's developed it, and but I can't really comment on that.
Dr. Surya, you'd like to say something?
Second opinion is your right, as a patient. So getting a medical report from your doctor is your right and you should demand it. And then, where you take a second opinion from is entirely up to you.
But I understand sometimes egos get in the way. And a doctor may think somehow you're questioning his diagnosis. But really, as Dr. Surya said, you do have that right. It's your life after all. And you have that right to ask for another.
When you buy a sari, you go and see 3-4 shops. So, if you want to consult 2-3 doctors, why not?
Yes.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, and I think doctors should welcome that really, and they should be working together towards that, because the final focus is the welfare of the patient. Any other questions?
Yes, this is Dr. Satyanarayan.
Yes.
Here. This is not exactly the questions, but is an observation. Incidentally, Dr. Surya was telling one of the reasons for the cancer is the pan masala or pan pasan. Incidentally, the Rajinikanth is the partner for this event.
I know, that's why I said it. So that I don't want to take the name.
For kind information, I was not knowing what is Rajinikanth organization. But when I asked there at the counter, you don't know it is a pan masala, pan pasan, they have given the kits. I think you can find that kits with hundreds of people who are not already into that pan masala or pan pasan. So in future, the Times of India should take care of these things.
No, I
Now-
think you should.
Let me
Okay, number two.
Okay, let me
I just say, just be smart about what you want. If you want to use a mouth freshener, use a clove or cardamom or soft. Areca nut is a known carcinogen as per the WHO 1985. Carcinogen is something that causes cancer. So be smart about it. Don't have wrong choices.
My second observation was you told that one of the reasons for the not only cancer, for any disease, the infection. I've traveled wide both in India and abroad. Delhi is the most number of wayside hotels we are having. In front of Parliament, we can find a wayside hotel. In front of AIMS, we can find the hotel, wayside hotels. In front of any secretariat, anywhere. It has become inevitable and indispensable for the people to go and eat there because there is no economy and clean hotels in Delhi. Therefore, I request the platform to make a move to the, whether it is a MCD or a NDMC or a state government or the central government, they should think of this very seriously. This is a man-made commitment, a man-made havoc to the people.
Well, thank you for your suggestion.
Thank you.
Now, one last question. We have to wind up. There's a gentleman there. He's been waiting patiently. Oh, hello, this gentleman. Oh, it's him.
I am Asha.
Oh,
I have a question which I've talked about already. But before I say that, I want to tell you that my elder sister's son died short, 1 or 2 months short of.
can you just hold the mic closer? Yeah.
My elder sister's son died short of 24 in 98 of aplastic anemia. My mother contracted breast cancer when she was about 65, and she has died in 2013 at the age of 91. So I went with the flow because there was no way of knowing, this was more than 30 years ago, what to do. So I just did what was expected of me. And I have come here totally by accident because of my friend's interest. And I just wanted to know, is this Rajnigandha the Pan Masala? Because it doesn't say Pan Masala, it just says Rajnigandha. So is it different?
Areca nut is a component. So like I said, areca nut is a known carcinogen.
Okay, thank you.
Before we finish, I have one other pleasant duty. The co-author, I believe, of this book is here with us in the audience, Miss Vanita Chandak. Could I just request her to just come up and say a few words before we close it?
Distinguished dignitaries at the dais, ladies and gentlemen, with profound gratitude, I express my sincere thanks for your presence on this occasion. And I am in fact, this session has witnessed a very attentive and a very participative audience, as well as a very enlightening session on cutting cancer to size, and I am very much delighted by it. I would like to thank Manisha, Priya, Dr. Siroi and Ma'am Saharmala for taking time off from their busy schedules and coming here to release our book into the oblivion. As you all know, our book Into the Oblivion is our mother's story of her fight with cancer, which ultimately took us into a soul-churning experience for us, her children, exposing us to so many facets of life about which we were unaware of till then. The trauma and the agony of swinging between hope and despair when we had thought that she had finally recovered from the illness finally from the ailment actually turned out to be a short intermission, soon to be followed by a long period of suffering and painful medication, which shook our innermost selves to the core, making us realize the hard way that when everything else fails, when your reason fails, your mind fails, your intellect fails, then it is only your faith and faith alone that gives you the power and the strength to endure whatever comes your way and to keep your life going. Honestly, I had never imagined that I would ever venture into this field of writing. But with the kind of experience that I had, I took this path which has finally brought me here before you. Initially, this book was written in Hindi, but when we received a lot of positive responses from people, from our readers, who thought that this book was of use to them, we thought that we should rewrite it in English so that it can reach to a wider audience. So, although so much has been written, deliberated upon, and conclusions drawn about on the subject of cancer, but I assure you that when it falls upon you and you are immersed into this subject, mind, body and soul, you find that no amount of literature on this subject is sufficient to you to give you the sufficient strength, and you want to know more and more. You want to know what else you can do for your patient to give him some kind of relief. And I believe the efforts which we have put into this book will prove beneficial and will help the people who would like to go through this book.
Thank you so much, Vinita ji. We have to conclude now. I'd like to thank the panelists. They were wonderful, made my job very easy. And I'd like to say thank you to a very excellent audience. It's been very attentive. I haven't heard one mobile phone go off. Thank you very much. And Dr. Maheshwari says he'd like to give a copy of his book to each one of the panelists. Thank you and enjoy the rest of the evening.
Thank you.
Madam, please. Sorry.
One seat now. Sir, please. A preserving copy.
Dr. Smile.
Yeah.
Your SRCC buddy.
Wow.
Ravi. साइन के भी फोटो हो गए फोटो
So much. It came really great.
बुक
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Whole of Delhi comes together. See you on the 31st.
Yeah, I'll be there.
I'm striding there. All on
We
the
are
31st.
collaborating. We are collaborating.
Yes. Excuse me, 1 minute please. Can we have a photograph?
Please come. Come. Okay, come. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very nice.
See the change?
Very nice.
You call me tomorrow.
Dr. Anand.
Please stop oneself and you widen your own horizons. You realize the matter beyond the physical limitations. And this is, I can't, tell you, one who practices it. It is something like when you love a person, when you love the community as a whole, the type of feeling, the dedication, as I said, that is soldier, it's a meditation for him. He sees beyond himself, beyond no limit. He can do anything in that life for the cause, the superordinary. And this is a real great power. Definitely, I believe you change our attitude, things will change. Some energy will come, which you can never see how from where this energy has come. It's a positive. It's okay. In one word, you have heard of Ubuntu. You are, therefore I am. That's the crux. We think everyone, you are, therefore I am. Changes the whole attitude.
Sir. Sir, please.
Look at sir.
यार एक कॉपी दे देना ये